Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's forecast. Today we are going to be looking at a continuation of the next couple of days. Right now we are looking at a pretty decent sized severe weather system. The main low is up here in Canada right now. However, it will be responsible for bringing some significant severe weather across the Dakotas and as well as Nebraska down south. Right now there is a level 2 slight risk for all three outlooks and even on day 4 as well. So we were watching pretty much everything very closely. And throughout the next couple of days, this low pressure system will continue to move off to the east. Will continue to move off to the east while bringing the jet stream with it for a little bit further to the south. This low pressure system will stay in Canada, but it will bring a decent amount of severe weather across the Dakotas as well in the northern plains. So we're watching it very, very closely. And then again, going kind of into Thursday, there will be some jet stream wind kind of lacking behind going into Friday. So we will be watching kind of everything that can go up in this area. Now moving on to the moisture. Right now, 60-degree dew points exist from about eastern South Dakota all the way up into Canada. And this is where the probably most likely the strongest storms will be, so they can go up in that kind of environment. And there is another kind of area of higher moisture in Nebraska. We could very certainly see some severe weather down there as well in the next couple of days. However, going into the next couple of hours, going to about noon to 1 p.m., a very noticeable, unstable, moist air mass exists from southern Canada all the way down to Nebraska. And this is where we are expecting the worst severe weather, especially in North and South Dakotas, where we are expecting the worst storms to be the next few days. And going into the next few days, this extremely unstable, warm, moist air mass will remain across the Dakotas, Nebraska, Iowa, and even Minnesota. And yes, of course, up into Canada as well. Again, any storms that can go up will be very strong to severe in this kind of environment. And eventually, the moisture will slowly get pushed back down to the south. Looking at CAPE or storm energy instability, going to noon to 1 p.m. ish, an area of higher CAPE values exist in North Dakota and far southern Canada, and another heightened area in Nebraska and South Dakota. Now, these are kind of the two areas we're watching for strong to severe thunderstorms today here on June 3rd, which is Wednesday. We're really watching this area for any significant strong storms, large hail damaging winds, and yes, there is a tornado threat today, which we'll get to here in just a bit. And going into the next few hours here, going to it's gonna be about 5 to 6 p.m. or sorry, 6 to 7 p.m. and a very unstable air mass consisting of 2,000 to 3,500 joules per kilogram of CAPE exists across South Dakota. And this is where we're really going to expect some stronger storms to exist. And again, we'll get to all that here in just a little bit. But we are seriously watching this area for potential for significant severe weather, including large hail damaging winds, and yes, a tornado threat is there. Going into Thursday throughout the day, storm energy instability will rise again from Minnesota into South Dakota, and this very unstable air mass will become again another prime environment for significant storms. You can actually see some storms taking off in that environment with these little holes in there. Those are storms going up in that unstable environment and taking in all that energy. And then going into Friday, the most significant moisture will get pushed down to the south. Now going into future reflectivity. kind of all currently right now there are scattered storms. Some could be strong to severe in the early morning hours of today, June 3rd. And right now we are watching just kind of all these little storms, like mostly thunderstorms with really small, some pretty small hail, maybe a gust of wind or two. Marginal severe early on in the day. However, going into the next few hours, these storms should go down casually before a group of severe thunderstorms start to take off from southern Canada into central South Dakota. And we're going to kind of watch those along with what comes after, with more of a broken line of severe thunderstorms from southern Canada through western Minnesota, east central to eastern South Dakota, and the Nebraska Panhandle. Any storms that go up in this broken line could very well produce large hail damaging winds, and yes, there is a tornado threat. And eventually, these will all converge into more of a line as they continue into eastern Nebraska, southeastern South Dakota, and the central southern portions of Minnesota as well. And eventually, they will continue and die off into Iowa and Wisconsin. And we were watching Thursday as well for several storms across North Dakota and South Dakota, along with Minnesota, and even potentially as far as Iowa down here. However, we are really watching for anything to take off in that primed environment here in South Dakota. I believe that may be the highest threat for tornadoes for Thursday afternoon and evening, and eventually these will converge into a line and continue off to the east. Going into the Storm Prediction Center, we have a level 2 slight risk here on the day 1 outlook, which is June 3rd. This is going to be ranging from far northern Nebraska into eastern South Dakota and southeastern North Dakota, and pretty much along the Minnesota borders for both states. Let's look at the tornado risk. Right now, we are seeing a hatched 5% risk there in central eastern South Dakota along far southeastern North Dakota. This is where we're expecting the broken line of storms today to kind of form up and move off to the east. And this is where we are expecting maybe any semi-discrete supercell. If it can produce a mesocyclone, it could produce a very isolated, strong tornado. A couple tornadoes very well possible today up there in North Dakota, and a 2% slight risk, 2% unhatched risk extends through to the Nebraska Panhandle and northeastern Colorado, which does include Denver. Going into the wind risk, we do have a 15% unhatched risk, taking up pretty much that entire slight risk area. 60, 65, maybe as high as 70 mile per hour wind gusts possible from about Fargo, North Dakota, Minnesota, down to Valentine, Nebraska. And in that area, again, 60, 65, maybe as high as 70 mile per hour winds. And 60, 65 mile per hour winds are possible as far south as southwestern Oklahoma and the Texas Panhandle. Looking at hail, we do have another significant risk here. Hatched risk exists from just south of Fargo down to Valentine, and it does increase outside of that risk as well, up to tennis ball size hail, possibly greater, very well possible in that hatched risk. Outside of that, quarters to golf balls are possible with the strongest storms that can go up just outside of that prime environment. However, again, any semi-discrete cell that can sustain themselves long enough can very well produce as high as tennis to baseball size hail. Again, that's if they can remain semi-discrete. Looking at the day 2 risk here, this is for June 4th. Again, another slight risk here. Kind of looks like a little cursed smiley face. This is going to take up the majority of South Dakota and the Nebraska Panhandle. We are really watching that area for the chance for an isolated tornado or two from northeastern Wyoming into southwestern South Dakota. And kind of in that area, again, just maybe an isolated tornado or two with any sustained mesocyclones. However, the primary risk is going to be wind and hail with 60 to 70 mile per hour winds possible from northeastern Wyoming through a great chunk of South Dakota and northwestern North Nebraska, where we are expecting, again, 60, 65, maybe as high as 70 mile per hour winds, and some significant hail with any sustained updrafts. We could see golf balls, tennis balls, or even up as high as baseballs with the strongest storms from northeastern Wyoming through western, southwestern, South Dakota. Watching any sustained cells that can go up in that environment. Um, and if those cores can really stay up high and keep control of themselves, they could very well produce some very large hail. Going into the day 3 outlook, there is significant risk possible in southeastern Nebraska, and that slight risk increases all the way up to far southwestern Wisconsin. Kind of in that area, we are expecting maybe isolated tornado or two, damaging wind, 60, 70 miles per hour, and hail ranging from golf balls to potentially up as high as baseballs with any sustained uh, cores and updrafts, and a marginal risk that extends from western Kansas all the way to western Michigan, and as far north as northeast Wisconsin and eastern South Dakota. Again, just a little bit of hail wind possible in that marginal risk.